Feels good to be really tall. Good morning. This is the Focus on Ministry. We're going to take a few minutes and going to talk a little bit about our caring ministry here at the church, formerly known as pastoral care. As many of you may have read in e-notes, today we are celebrating our parish nurse, Ann Bear Clark. Ann, where are you? We are celebrating Ann for her compassionate care, love, and support for over 4 years and through the pandemic, the hardest time for anyone in the caring profession. Ann will be retiring in 2 weeks. Ann has been an amazing caregiver, and for those who have been the recipient of her warm and spiritual care, she will be difficult to part with and impossible to forget. We hope you'll all join us in the coffee hour after the service, where we can all express our gratitude for all the gifts that she has shared with us. With Ann's retirement, the process has been underway to search for an assistant minister for congregational life to grow and expand our ministry of care. And thanks to the work of the assistant minister search team, Nancy McDowell, Lloyd Cole, Nini Ingersoll, and Mia Carpiniello. They're a terrific team, and they've been working hard preparing all the materials to present to candidates who might be applying for the assistant minister position. Thus far, the search team has not received any applicants for the position. We know this is a challenging time for congregations in ministerial search. There's a shortage of ministers and a long list of UU congregations searching for a minister. We faced this situation last year in ministerial search, and we feel very lucky that we have Reverend John with us now. It seems the situation is even more challenging this year, and perhaps just another sign that we need to, the sign of the need to reimagine the current model of church. So we are adapting, changing course, rethinking, and opening new opportunities and possibilities for the way to move forward. We are suspending the search for the assistant minister. We see this, though, as the opportunity to think more broadly about this position, about potential candidates who can lead our caring ministry with Reverend John and introduce and bring new perspectives. Our caring ministry is the core of our church's overall ministry and our values, to care for one another and to be present for each other when there is a need on this journey called life. Within this congregation, we have so much wisdom from lived experience, waiting to be known, valued, and shared to help others facing similar life paths and challenges. Whether you're a longtime member, a new member, or a visitor walking in the door in search of something. We have an amazing potential to transform how we care for each other within this congregation. It is up to all of us to build the caring community we want to be, working together in shared ministry. While we will adapt and change how we go about and do things in response to the changing world, we will remain focused on our mission and why we are committed to a strong, caring, and covenanted community. It is time to imagine these new possibilities together. Norma and Margot will share their vision now, and we hope you will stay and join us for the visioning session after coffee hour and share your ideas for new possibilities to transform our caring ministry and truly our community. Norma?
I represent the old folks, as you can tell. Good morning. My name is Norma Winther, and I'm a member, along with Barbara Colton, of the Caring Ministry Visioning Committee. Sounds impressive. Additional members on this committee include Nancy McDowell, Reverend John Morehouse, and John Smith. It is on behalf of this committee that I speak. For a number of years, we at MLUC have been fortunate in having a part-time parish nurse. Those of us who have been shepherded through difficult times by the medical expertise and warmth of Ann Bear Clark value greatly her support. We know you all join us in saying happy retirement, Ann. We will miss you. We wish you well in the next chapter of your life. I believe I speak for all MLUC members and friends in saying that there is an excitement in this building currently that has not been felt for many years. I wish I could say the same for our country. Envisioning together and planning for the future, there is opportunity for positive change, an opportunity to turn our current energy into action. Our hope and plan is to continue and expand our caring community to include counseling and spiritual support in times of critical life transitions and/or circumstances. Not only physical well-being, but loneliness, aging, parenting challenges, identity issues, mental health, stress, and relationship concerns might be addressed through support groups, education, and outside expertise. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or consider yourself to be old, your well-being is important. And if you are unsure of your category, it is said one is middle-aged when it's hard to determine whether your children or your parents give you greater concern. Transforming lives is our mission, and to that end, we are committed. So come, let us vision together. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't need a stool. Fabulous. Okay, you can tell I'm not a pro at this because I've single-spaced what I'm going to say, so please bear with me. The future of our congregation's caring ministry needs to put community at its center. The respect that we pay to one another's privacy is good and necessary in the world outside of these walls, but I believe that the more involved we are with one another at church, the more caring this community can be. This vision of a caring community starts whenever a new potential congregant walks through the door. We are very good at getting new members involved with the day-to-day affairs of the church, committees, meetings, and the like. By the time I left my second coffee hour, I'm pretty sure I was already on 3 separate committees and had expressed an interest in about a half dozen more. But committees don't make a community. I hope for a future in which new members have mentors who show them the ropes and help them to find what they are looking for from the get-go. This future involves these mentors getting to know the community better themselves, because they will need to know in which direction they should send their mentees. It means that when someone arrives at a professional crossroads, they get more than platitudes. They find someone who can give them tangible help. When they arrive searching for deeper meaning, they can connect with someone with a well-worn spiritual path. And when they arrive with a sick child, they can find me. Transitions and challenges happen at every stage of life, to people in every imaginable circumstance. My needs as a parent, as a theist, and as a queer trans woman are not the needs of everyone in this congregation. Plenty of folks choose not to have children, do not believe in a higher power, and are straight or cis. A caring ministry is about more than a single position invested with the power of caring. It is about all of us finding the ways in which our journeys overlap to create a community in which people know where to turn when they are in need. So with all of that in mind, what are some tangible things we can do? A mentorship program for anyone who wants it, but especially for new members who are most often coming to our congregation for a reason. A more robust small group ministry structure with rigorously maintained records that makes a large, intimidating congregation intimidating, a little bit smaller and a little bit more human feeling. Affinity groups that meet regularly with active facilitation, and a million ideas that come out of our discussions as a loving community. I take our mission statement seriously. My life has been transformed by the relatively brief time I've been at MLUC, and I desperately want others to have the same experience. I'm looking forward to doing the work with all of you.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming to the visioning session. Let's start with a big thank you to Margot and Norma, for kicking us off with their visions this morning and their great job presenting to the congregation. This is our fourth visioning session, so, and this is the last. So it's great to see everybody here. For those, if you've been to another visioning session, can you just raise your hand? Okay, so you guys know the blurb. We're looking forward, what we want, how we want looking forward. With that, I'm not going to say much more because you guys know what the deal is. I'm going to turn it over to Dana, who's going to facilitate. Reverend John is here. Should there any be questions? And we'll get started and look forward to hearing some of your ideas about the possibilities of what we can do to strengthen our caring ministry here at Mainline.
Thanks, Barbara. We are going to be passing microphones around, so when you get the microphone, please hold it like this, not like this, because we're actually recording this, so it will help everybody who's here as well as not here. The one thing I did want to say that if you hadn't been here to any of the other visioning sessions, that we have our very reliable note taker, Nancy McDowell, and so, thank you, Nancy. So we will be sending out from all of the sessions the highlights and different things, bullet points. The other thing I would say is that there are some sign-up sheets going around. If you could please fill that out, we would appreciate that. And one more thing, just in terms of group process, please be kind. I won't go through the whole list of things. I think you all know how to be in a group and be well behaved and respectful. So that's the only other thing. So as Norma and Margot, they had talked about being part of a group that was given a mission to talk about visioning around our caring ministry. And just like all the other groups, we had a larger framework of, if we had all the resources available, people, money, what would be your dreams? And so that's sort of an umbrella thing to think about in terms of caring ministry. We would love to hear from you. We have Beth Rittenhouse. Is there another microphone? Is this the other one? Oh, okay. Yes, all right. Okay, so just raise your hand if you'd like to speak. If you have any reflections on anything that may have been said during the service, as well as if you have ideas of your own. So we have Kathy. And please say your name into the microphone because people can know who you are. Thanks.
I'm Kathy Hirsch, and I went to an absolutely fabulous women's retreat here yesterday that was organized by Chris Cavalieri. Is Chris here? And Caroline. And then I'm here today talk about caring community, and I think that retreat is a way to build caring community and similar events like that, because caring is more than just being there for each other in tough times. Caring, I think, is about building community and the relationships and the support in times good and bad. And I think events like that go a long way toward helping us be a caring community. And I would like to see more events like that.
I understand that this new position that was proposed would in effect replace the parish nurse. And I guess I am concerned about how much time the parish nurse spends doing as part of his or for us, her duties requires the sort of training that is exemplified by maybe having the initials RN after their name. And so I wanted to ask Anne, what proportion of some of your time some of your help could have been done by a caring, smart, well-connected person, but some of it would be much better served by having a real nursing background. And could you tell us how much of your time was that?
No. The way my job unfolded was 4 months into my start here, we went into COVID. And I had 500 people to meet and closed doors. So I just went to work with...
And you need to be a little more parallel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fritz helped me in designing how to be in communication through all our virtual work. And then I realized no one could get hold of me here at the church easily. So I put my phone number out, my cell phone number, and that became how folks got hold of me. And when I would work a lot one-on-one with individuals and their families. I facilitated the groups, the support groups. So, Doctor, I don't really know what to tell you because I answered my phone. You know, people call me, life happens. I think that, and I'm a trained hospice nurse and on-call nurse, so I know about being on-call. And I know how to live on-call. A lot of people don't. But that really served me and in my work to have people be able to get hold of me directly as they needed, as they went through the journeys that I was meeting them on. So I really can't tell you. You know, it was my job, and I did it the way I know how to do my job, which is to be available.
It was the basis of the work that I did. You know, my training as a nurse for 50 years, hospice nurse for half of that. Then I got trained in compassionate presence by the Meta Institute. So I'm just got very comfortable being with people in these crises. And supporting folks and witnessing to what was happening. And it's all derived from my experience as a nurse. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to say that Anne provided me with so much medical help, one-on-one, for long periods of time over the last 3 years. Helped me to choose, you know, what to do and what to do with my husband who was ill. And her being a hospice nurse was just invaluable to me, to guide me, to help me. So I can't imagine anyone doing this job without some kind of medical experience. I want to give a public thank you. Thank you. Yes.
So I know Norma wants to speak, and I know that you're all very worried about this. First of all, again, Anne, you performed a marvelous ministry. It grew out of the terrible times of the pandemic, being shut down, and what you did was life-saving for people here. I think we can all agree with that. It was amazing. I want to comment a little bit about where I think we're going to be going, but I want to, of course, hear from all of you and talk a little bit about the interim, because I know a lot of you are worried. You know, Anne's retiring April 5th, and that's a non-negotiable date. So I want to honor that, and I want to let you know what we're doing, because ultimately this falls onto my lap. I'm your senior minister. I'm responsible for your care. Where we are probably pivoting right now, because we can't find an assistant minister. And by the way, folks, that's not necessarily a failure. That's just a reality. I mean, there's almost 2 to 1 now of churches looking for ministers. So don't feel bad. There's a lot of places that are not going to get a minister this year. People are going to get called out of retirement. And it's a long story that we're not going to talk about right now. But I think what we may be looking for is someone who might have some medical background, but hopefully has some pastoral training in something called clinical pastoral education, if we can find such a person. And I'm looking at some sources. I've been thinking about some ideas. I'll meet with the committee. This person would be able to provide not medical advice, but be able to provide care in a spiritual or a emotional way to help you make the best decisions, and with no resources to go to be able to make that happen. So that's kind of where I think we're going to end up, is try to find that person. We're imagining this right now as a full-time job, because it takes a full-time job to match Anne at halftime. And that's just the way that is. So that's kind of where we're thinking, but I want to hear from all of you. And this person would also, what Anne's done wonderfully online is also something we're hoping to do in person. That's creates different support groups and different opportunities for us to be in group, as Kathy was saying back there, the women's retreat, was an amazing success, I'm told, yesterday. And we have another retreat coming up soon in April on meditation. So we're trying to draw people together, and these are great ideas. What's going to happen when Anne retires? It's already happening. I'm going to put my cell phone number out there. You'll be able to reach me. And you're going to hear from me, and it's going to be this California number, and you're going to be like, oh, it's another telemarketer. I don't know, maybe I am, who knows. But I think the point is that you'll be able to reach me. We're going to continue the groups that Anne's already started. I'll be online with folks. We have a caregiver support group on this first and third Mondays. We're going to have an all support group. That is, anybody who has a pastoral care concern wants to be in a group to talk about it. the second and fourth Mondays at 1 to 2:30 p.m. every week. So that we're putting in place so people have a place to go if they don't want to call on me specifically. And we have people here who have been assisting Ann, and I will ask them to step in certain situations as well. If you're in the hospital, you will likely get a visit from me. Not always, but almost always. I consider that to be very important. This is good old-fashioned ministry work that I used to do in much smaller congregations, which will all be moving us towards, I hope, rapidly finding someone who can assist me in that work and assist the other pastoral care folks who are involved on the team with that work. So just know we're not going to just drop this. You have a place to go, and you will be able to reach me, and we will have pastoral care for you, and you will not be alone. I want to be sure everybody hears that message loud and clear, because I think some people are worried about that. All right, now back to the rest of the conversation.
I want to remind you that I don't know how long you've been a member here, but Ann has done a wonderful job for us. She's the third part-time nurse that we have had in our church. So it's been about 17 or 18 years that we've had a nurse, parish nurse, part-time. And they've all done wonderful work for us in very specific ways. But now we're here not to talk about what wonderful work we have had, but what the future holds for us. Where can we go from here? What can we do that will be even better, that will serve more people with a greater variety of needs, rather than just those needs when a loved one is very ill or when we ourselves are very ill? So let's vision about what this can morph into and how we can work together to help all of us, because we all have needs regardless of our age.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Marshall. I was very heartened, I was very heartened to know that we could scrape together the money to have a full-time person. But my vision of a full-time person still has to be someone with strong medical knowledge and knowledge of resources that are medical. There are other people other than RNs that could do that, probably. But I don't think that, I was not pleased when I heard about a pastoral minister, because I don't think most ministers have the kind of medical background that we have been privileged to have. And I was very active as a participant with our previous nurse. And when Ann has been here, I have used her services. And the medical expertise that she has brought, around that she got through hospice work, is absolutely invaluable, and I want us to remember that.
Could we try and have somebody lined up after somebody gets the microphone so we can go more quickly? I want everybody to be heard if that's possible.
Hi, I'm Nuala Carpenter, and I just I'm thinking about two ministries that I think are important, and one is for families with very young children. You know, maybe there, people here with young children who are feeling isolated. Maybe their family are far away and need that. Also, I was involved with a ministry under Jan where we were assigned somebody who was living fairly isolated, who didn't have family around, and I would go visit this person, maybe every 3 weeks, just for companionship and report. I would send a note then to the nurse if there was a problem, but it just seemed like a very valuable ministry that I think we could do again.
No, Irene's next, you're next, you're next.
I just want to reaffirm what we had asked by Dr. Wheeler, was do we need somebody with a medical background? And I would say, without a doubt, definitely. I can't tell you what it's like to be standing outside of an emergency room door with your loved one inside, and they walk out and they say to you, okay, you got a choice to make, and you got to make it now. And when you have someone who knows you, knows your family, knows the person and what their wishes are, that's the greatest gift you can give to anyone. And that medical knowledge is essential. And we look at our congregation, yes, we're trying to grow it. Of course we are. And we also have to look at our adult people. We don't have a lot of the people here right now who have received the services of both Ann and Jan because they're home either taking care of their loved ones or because they can't have the transportation to get here to be able to speak, or because they're overwhelmed themselves. So this, I'm not saying either or, I'm saying both, but for me, it's critical that we have this individual with medical knowledge. Granted, John, and I've spoken to other ministers, they have access to, they can come into a room when someone's dying and nobody else can go in there, but because they are a pastor there to get, or a priest, to give last rites, they can go where some of us couldn't go. But this medical knowledge is invaluable. It's what made this church, both of those things, essential. I'm delighted to hear that we've called off the search for this new individual. I think that was a very wise idea, and I think we can put our heads together. We all said when Vince was gone, we said, we'll never be able to replace him. It's impossible. And guess what? We did. I mean, we're still honoring him, but we have a vibrant now, and all of us can agree. We have a very vibrant musical program here, and now let's do the same with our caregiving.
I'm Kathy Cortez, for those of you who don't know me. We've only been here for 3 years in the area. We've been coming to Mainline, but of course it was during COVID, so it's really just been this year that we've gotten into it. But we were UUs in a small church in Massachusetts that was nowhere near as well funded as this church. We did not have a parish nurse. And in fact, I don't recall of the churches that I knew in the Massachusetts Bay District, any churches that did have a parish nurse. But we did have a lay pastoral group, and they were trained. There was a training that was given to the people who were on the lay pastoral group, and they performed a lot of the, not the critical service that Irene is talking about, but certainly home visits and that sort of thing, companionship, all of those kinds of things, and when people were sick. And so I guess that's the model that I just thought maybe it'd be helpful for you to know that there are other churches out there that have different models for lay pastoral stuff. And maybe that's what we need to do, is look at some other models. Thank you.
I'm Carrie Nielsen. My vision for Caring Community is really about making connections among us. And whoever the new person is, I really hope that they prioritize that as an important part of their job. When I suddenly had to make a scary decision, it was during the Christmas holidays, and our previous parish nurse was out of town. But I happened to be in a small group ministry with a retired neonatologist who picked up her phone, and we got Anya sorted out. And I was thinking about what Nuala said. Many years ago, when Celia was a toddler, I was home with her on Wednesdays, And so I sent an email to a previous parish nurse saying, is there anybody who could use a visit from a mom and a toddler on a Wednesday? And never heard anything back. And those are the kinds of connections we should be prioritizing so that we can make best use of our amazing selves to care and support each other.
Hi, I'm John McCormick. Speaking of the issue of size of this church, we are not a small community church with maybe 100 or 200 people, and we have a pastoral care group that cares for ourselves. We are not that way. For the group's information, Jan Kaufman belonged to a group of parish nurses within the Delaware Valley. Parish nurses are the gold standard in most large corporate churches within this region. They're parish nurses, folks, and they're a fact. And most of I'll use Bryn Mawr Press as a good example, with 4 or 5 full-time ministers. They, in addition, have a parish nurse. There is a reason for that. It's being expressed here slightly. We are a large corporate church. Let's look at large corporate churches and how they are structuring their staffs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Vanderwist. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a pastoral counselor. The way I see my pastoral counseling is whatever a person comes to wherever they're at, then that's what I give. So I have a background in several different religions as well as in the UU. And I think that mental health is an important thing for us to consider, not just to focus on the physical health. It is very, very difficult now to find mental health services in the area and to be able to pay for them. So I think one of the things is we kind of started this months ago, but we didn't really go any place, I don't think, with it in terms of pastoral care and counseling. So maybe to again look at some training in these areas. Not that we're going to specifically see people, but wherever we are in the parish. Like I lead 2 small groups. And I think my groups really like that I have that background in terms of what we talk about and how we talk. I know specifically in my group at Shannondale that members really appreciate they say this is their only opportunity to talk with others on another level. And so I think that that is important, and that's what we can do within the different groups and other things that we belong to, no matter what they are, no matter if they're committees or they're groups.
So long ago when I first joined this church, Betty Musser was a person who collected meals in the freezer for HIV patients. And that was something I could do as a young mother, leave it in the freezer. She delivered it. I think that when you're talking about young families or people who have, they're caregivers, to have meals in the freezer would be really a welcome. Doesn't cause a big fuss. You don't have to start a meal train. They can just go get it. Rides to doctor's appointments, hospital appointments, that could be, there could certainly be a list. This doesn't address the model that our church probably wants to think about, but my husband is newly retired ER doctor who's excellent at explaining things. He has taken calls from people in the congregation. He would be happy to do that. Certainly there are people in the congregation who can fill that gap, at least in the short term. I don't know what the final model would look like, but I think there's a wealth of availability for people with expertise.
Ellen Youngdahl, on the micro level, we're talking about co-ministry a lot. And I used to say, I'd like the church to be a place like a feather bed, or you could fall back into it without looking behind you, like a trust walk. And I'd like to see us get some training about how we listen to each other, hold each other in our hearts, so that this is sort of an emotionally safe place for all of us, and a place of co-ministry. Thank you.
Could you please remember to say your name? Dawn, I don't know if you said your name, but before Ellen was Dawn Hostigi.
This is Nancy Jeffries. I'm living in an assisted living facility, but the only transportation I can get is during the week for doctor's appointments. And coming to the church is always difficult, trying to get somebody to drive me because I live in Phoenixville. So I'm very interested in rides. But another point I wanted to make was talking about different needs and all the different types of services that people here are involved in would be great. I thought at one point we were going to have a directory of, services that people could offer, whether it was, medical kind of things or psychological things or, money management or, all kinds of different things that people need that would like some advice as to, who's trustworthy and who, can help me out with this sort of thing. So I don't know if that has happened yet, but I know that was a thought we had at one point, that there'd be some sort of services directory.
I want to add to what has been said here today. Yeah, sorry, it's Joanne Rose. No, I'm happy I'm Joanne Rose, so I'm not apologizing for being Joanne Rose. So, okay. Okay, so I've listened to what's been said, and I think of people who recently, our beloved community, who have had needed assistance recently, and I wonder what they have to say too. But I wanted to add, in addition to the medical information, which is important. I mean, I'm sure some of us here have been near our loved ones they're dying, right? So it is important to have that medical information to make your decisions. Though a lot of times, many times, we can get that from our providers, okay? And we need to be advocates for our loved ones and ourselves and keep asking the questions, that kind of thing. I don't mean to negate that. That's important. It's also the psychological, emotional needs at that time when people are ill. The other thing is caring people. So I think we can do this as we're moving forward to a different model. If we keep that in mind, if we have caring people that are the associate minister or in the community, the hard thing is the on-call part. I mean, everybody else has their lives too. I think we can do this. What's important is a person who can be there, is caring, has some background. I wanted to hear what Barbara Weber has to say, or other people in the social works and the psychological background that is needed when you're in palliative care or you're in hospice. So, and we have a lot of that here in the community, but I mean, you do need somebody who's paid, I think, qualified, and then a backup with our community to be like a list of friends, list of people who are willing to meet the needs that when a person has to talk and make their decisions or feel heard what they're going through.
Hi, I'm Ed McDonald. I'm listening to everybody, and it seems to me that they're different. Some of the points of view are coming together, and some of them are disparate. I'm thinking about an idea of a distributed system where a lot of people are involved, as opposed to one person. it's important to have a contact point in any week. But you could have 6 people or 5 people who are good at talking to someone, figuring out what's going on, and then knowing who in the community has medical expertise or psychological or can give rides. And there can be multiple of each of those. So we have a pyramid that's of roles, and different people in the congregation could occupy those roles. I'm thinking about the problem of a corporate church. If we really had an effective corporate church, we'd be paying $120,000 for somebody who, a year, for somebody who would fulfill this role full time. We're not doing that. We probably won't do that. But we have a lot of talent. We have retired doctors. We have people that can spend a couple of hours a week giving counseling. I think that's the idea. And other people are starting to suggest that. The idea of a distributed system, though, that a lot of folks in the congregation are involved in, that's organized so we know at any one time who's responsible for those different roles. That's it.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm Pam Costi. My concern in this discussion is I think that we've had a parish nurse here for 17 years, somebody said. I've been a member for over 30 years, and I've watched us all get older. And we've given a lot to this church, and I think that the folks who've been here a while, we should keep a parish nurse. And I think the problem for me with this discussion is we also need to be talking about caring. I think, was it Margot? I forget who brought up the idea of mentorship for new members, and Kathy brought up programs that connect us more. And I'm concerned that we're trying to take one person and make them do 2 very, very important but different jobs.
Is there anyone who hasn't talked who would like to speak?
One thing we haven't mentioned before is advocacy. As we're growing older, we're redefining what it is, what old age is. I'm now told it's not, we don't call senior citizens, we call them older citizens. And I asked, well, when does that begin? And they said, oh, when you get your AARP thing when you're 50. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute, wait. Anyway, one thing that we had talked about, what we haven't mentioned yet, is I think it's very exciting for me to take a look at how we're redefining how we want to age and how we want to spend those last years of our life. That requires advocacy. And I have talked to Reverend John about that, and I have been, and I'm sure a lot of you in this room have been very strong advocates for the right for a woman to decide and for a family to decide whether to have a child or not. I also want to have the right to decide how I die and when. And every time it comes up before the congregation, not our congregation, before the legislature in Pennsylvania, it gets defeated. I was very pleased in talking with Reverend John to find out that it was one of their litigants from another community who challenged, in Vermont now, they just passed, you don't have a residency requirement anymore. So there are certain states it's good to get old in, certain good states that you'll be able to die the way you want to in. And we need to advocate so that's more and more for other people to do that. Vermont now does not have a residency requirement, and you get compassionate choices also with the right to die. But the advocacy piece is what I think we also need to be looking at, because we have a tremendous opportunity on how we want to spend the rest of our life.
I think there is great resource in this room. And the folks that have, that I've been privileged to work with, have a depth of experience and knowledge. I think having a volunteer coordinator that would take your call about, I want to volunteer with my baby on Wednesdays, right? Or I have a dog, or I like meals, or we all like meals, but you know, I need a ride. That has been one of the biggest stumbling blocks for me in my role, is looking for volunteers and not finding them, and not being the person to really create a volunteer program where you have training and supervision. I think when we opened up the pastoral care meeting, when John first got here and we saw the amount of people that showed up for that, there you are. That was like 30 people. And I think with figuring out how you want to participate, what you have to offer, and having a person that will help train and supervise that is everything.
Any other thoughts or reflections? You have the opportunity to have your voice heard.
Jansen Wendell here. We haven't heard mention the old neighborhood groups, which fell by the wayside, but I'm wondering if that model is still useful. I mean, people who live close by, who can offer rides or meals or other support, and that requires a good coordination. So I really agree with Ann that one of the main skills of this staff person should be as a coordinator.
Anybody else want to say something? Reverend John, anyone else?
Well, like all areas of ministry, you want someone who can do it all. And they're 28 years old, and they have a family who doesn't bother them, and they work 60 hours a week, but make sure they take off 4 weeks a year. It's all of what you're saying is valid. All of what you're saying is valid. We need this and so much more. I think the model that we need to come upon is a model that incorporates as much of this as possible and involves as many of you as possible, which is why I stopped the effort that I began, because I realized we need to find out where we're going first before we design something to get there. And I think I hear more and more about what you're going for. A little bit about the medical thing, because I think it's an important distinction. I hear a lot of people saying, well, I think we need someone who has a medical background. There are all kinds of religious people who have had training in hospitals. It's actually required. Every minister has to do 1 unit of clinical pastoral education, and it's more than just learning how to talk to people in hospital settings. They actually learn how hospitals work. And believe me, I've been doing this for 33 years, and I know a lot about hospitals. I know about how to get in them, I know how to move around them. I wouldn't be able to advise you on which heart procedure to have, because that's not my background, but I would know how to advocate for you and get you the answers you needed to be able to make that decision. So it's important to realize that the person we're ultimately looking for has this background, and is not just going in it sort of airy-fairy with a lot of wispy ideas about, what care looks like. We get some down-to-earth training in our background, and it's important to know that. And it may not be a minister, but it may be someone who has had that training and does know how to work within a medical system, and does know how to navigate some of those smaller issues that are big issues to you at a time that are cumulative. And we need to have somebody who can manage volunteers. I've heard it over and over again. Support groups, advocacy, all the things that congregational life, caring congregational life is about. So that's what we're trying to find, that right person. And this has been tremendous today. I've gotten so much information. I think we're going to begin thinking about how to make this work and see if we can find the solution to this problem. Listen, you're an amazing group of people. You really are. And we have, and I've got like 6 ideas down here already that I'm thinking about in the interim while we're waiting. So thank you. My door is open. I'll be publishing my cell phone. Francis will never forgive me, but that's okay. It's important for you all to know how to reach me, and we're going to work at it as a team in shared ministry with our volunteers to try to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for sharing. If you have any other thoughts about what's important for the future of this ministry, please send it to stewardship so Nancy can add it to her notes if needed. And John and Reverend John and the other staff can hear your concerns.